You have been doing everything right. You wake up earlier than most people. You stay later. You carry the weight of the work home with you at night. You think about it in the shower. You push through the days when your body says stop and the weeks when nothing moves, and still nothing changes. Not nothing. You improve, you learn. You grow quieter and more capable in ways you can feel. But the results, the recognition, the breakthrough, the moment when it finally works, keep sitting just outside your reach, like a door that moves backward the faster you walk toward it. And the worst part is not the failure itself. The worst part is the story you have started telling yourself in the dark. Maybe I am not good enough. Maybe working harder is not enough. You are right about the last part, but not for the reasons you think, because here is what no one tells you about effort. Effort is not the same as strategy. Working hard is necessary, but it is not sufficient. A person can row with everything they have and still drown if they are rowing in the wrong direction. The gap between effort and outcome is not a gap in your willpower. It is a gap in your understanding. And 2,500 years ago, a man who had watched more human beings destroy themselves through effort than almost anyone in history put that gap into words that have never been improved upon. His name was Sun Tzu, and he left behind a lesson for you specifically, not for generals, not for emperors, for anyone who has ever looked at everything they have given and wondered, why is it still not enough? Sun Tzu was not a philosopher in the way most people imagine philosophers. He did not sit in comfort and theorize about ideas. He was a general in a time when being wrong cost thousands of lives. His thinking was sharpened by consequence, real, irreversible, immediate consequence. And what he observed again and again was this. Most people lose not because they lack courage, not because they lack effort. They lose because they do not understand the terrain they are fighting on. He wrote, "Strategy without tactics is the slowest route to victory. Tactics without strategy is the noise before defeat." Read that again slowly. The noise before defeat. He is describing a person who is genuinely, exhaustingly busy, but whose busyness is disconnected from any coherent understanding of where they are, where they need to go, and what stands between the two. And then he gives the clearest diagnosis in the history of human strategy. The general who wins the battle makes many calculations in his temple before the battle is fought. The general who loses makes but few calculations beforehand. The temple is not a place of worship. It is the room where you think before you act, where you sit with the problem in its full complexity before you move. The losing general goes straight to the battlefield. He acts from urgency. He brings tremendous force to the moment and applies it with everything he has. And he loses, not because he was weak, because he was reactive. Now hold this against your own life. Think about the last year, the work you have poured into the thing that still has not moved. How much of that effort was spent in the temple? How much was genuine, clear-eyed calculation before you stepped onto the ground? How much was urgency dressed as productivity? How much was motion dressed as progress? Once you understand this first layer, you discover that underneath it, there is something far deeper. Something about the most fundamental mistake a human being can make in their relationship with their own effort. It is a mistake Sun Tzu names precisely, in a sentence so counterintuitive that most people read it and dismiss it immediately. The ones who understand it change everything. Sun Tzu writes, "Supreme excellence consists not in winning every battle, consists in defeating the enemy without fighting at all." Most people misread this. They hear it as a clever bit of military advice about avoiding unnecessary conflict. But underneath it, Sun Tzu is making a claim about effort itself that cuts to the core of why you are working so hard and still losing. He is saying this: if you are constantly fighting, if every day is a battle, if you are perpetually exhausted from pushing against resistance, then something is wrong. Not with your willpower, with your position. Supreme excellence does not look like effort. It looks like inevitability. Think about water. Sun Tzu returns to water again and again in The Art of War. Water shapes its course according to the nature of the ground over which it flows. Water does not fight the riverbank. It does not push against the stone with greater force until the stone breaks. It moves around. It finds the path of least resistance, not because it is weak, but because it is intelligent. Over centuries, water carves the deepest canyons on Earth, not through force, through alignment with reality. Now ask yourself, what are you fighting that you should be moving around? We have been taught by schools, by culture, by every story we were raised on, that the path to victory runs through the obstacle, that the worthy person faces the challenge head-on and conquers it through force of will. That struggle itself is the proof of your worth. Sun Tzu would call this the thinking of someone who has never actually won a real war. The generals who prevailed almost never did it by fighting harder. They did it by understanding the terrain so deeply that they could position their forces where victory was already structurally inevitable, before the first sword was raised. He who knows when he can fight and when he cannot will be victorious. There is a category of effort in your life right now that is brave, admirable, and deeply sincere, and that is also positioned in exactly the wrong place. It's fighting a battle that cannot be won from where you are standing. Not because you are not strong enough, because the ground itself is wrong. This might be a job where the ceiling is structural, not personal. No matter how well you perform, the organization cannot reward you the way you deserve, because it was never built to. You are inside a river that flows the wrong direction. Working harder will not change the direction of the river. This might be a relationship where you have been giving everything and receiving almost nothing. And the story you tell yourself is that you simply haven't given enough yet. Sun Tzu would say, "You have misread the terrain. Some ground does not yield to effort. The only strategic response to unwinnable ground is to leave it. In each case, the problem is not your effort. The problem is your position." And here is where Sun Tzu reveals something even more unsettling. If you know the enemy and know yourself, you need not fear the result of 100 battles. If you know yourself, but not the enemy, for every victory gained, you will also suffer a defeat. If you know neither the enemy nor yourself, you will succumb in every battle. Most people read this as advice about knowing your competition, but Sun Tzu places knowing yourself first, before the enemy, before the terrain, before the strategy. Know yourself. This is the most unsettling thing in the entire art of war, because it implies that the primary reason people lose is not that they have underestimated the enemy. It is that they have misunderstood themselves. They do not know what they are actually good at. They do not know which of their beliefs about their situation are accurate observations and which are inherited stories that have never been examined. They work hard toward a version of victory that belongs to someone else's definition of success. They exhaust themselves performing a version of themselves that was designed to impress people who are no longer watching. And the most painful part is that this misalignment comes not from ignorance, but from sincerity. You are not failing because you don't care. You are failing in precisely the areas where you care most. Because caring without clarity produces effort without direction. Let that sit. He says, victorious warriors win first and then go to war. Defeated warriors go to war first and then seek to win. The victorious warrior does the invisible work first. The calculation, the honest accounting of where they actually are versus where they believe they are. They do not begin from urgency. They begin from clarity. And because they begin from clarity, their effort, when it finally lands in exactly the right place with exactly the right force. They look like they got lucky. They are not lucky. They are prepared. You have been doing the work. The question Sun Tzu is asking you is, do you know your ground? There is a practical reckoning this creates. Sun Tzu does not leave you in the problem. He is a strategist, and a strategist's job is not to describe defeat beautifully. It is to change the outcome. First, you stop rewarding your effort and start examining your position. This is genuinely difficult. Effort feels virtuous, and in a culture that has told you since childhood that hard work is the answer, stopping to question the positioning of that work feels almost morally wrong. It is not. Sitting alone with the honest question of whether your effort is positioned correctly requires far more courage than simply doing more. Because more is comfortable. More is familiar. Examining whether you are pointed in the right direction. That is confronting. Sun Tzu calls this sitting in the temple before the battle. Spend time there. Ask. Where is the resistance actually coming from? Is it an obstacle to overcome, or is it the ground itself telling me I am in the wrong place? Second, you identify what you are actually strong at versus what you believe you should be strong at. These are often not the same. Most people are working hard in areas where they have competence, but not true strength, because competence is what they were praised for, and praise became the compass. Your real strengths are often quieter, less socially validated, but when effort aligns with genuine strength, the quality of the output changes. The water has found its channel. Third, you choose your battles with the ruthlessness of a general who knows that every war costs resources that cannot be replaced. Not every defeat is a failure. Some defeats are the most strategic decisions of your life, the battles you chose not to fight because winning them would cost you more than losing them would. Your victory is not waiting for you at the end of more work. It is waiting for you at the end of clearer work. Clearer work pointed at the right position, deployed in alignment with your actual strengths, directed at battles you can structurally win. That is what changes outcomes. Not rest from the fight, precision in it. There is something the art of war does not tell you directly, something Sun Tzu leaves in the space between the lines. The person who understands the art of war is not the person who wins the most battles. It is the person who has stopped needing to prove their worth through winning. Because the deepest problem beneath working hard and still losing is not strategic. It is about what you are actually trying to prove and to whom. How much of your effort has been driven by genuine desire, a real calling towards something you believe in, and how much has been driven by the need to be seen as someone who does not fail. To quiet the voice that says, if I stop, I will have to face what stopping reveals about me. Fear is the least reliable compass in existence. It keeps you moving, but it does not know where to go. Genuine desire knows where to go. It is the part of you that existed before the proving began. It was there when you were young, and something caught your attention, not because it would impress anyone, but because it simply mattered to you. That part of you has not gone anywhere. It has been waiting. Sun Tzu called it knowing yourself. He placed it before everything, before knowing the enemy, before reading the terrain, before choosing the battle. Know yourself first. And when you stop long enough to hear what that self is actually saying, the effort that follows is different. It is not less. It may actually be more, but it is no longer noise. It is direction. And that is the only difference between the general who wins and the general who merely fights. You have been working hard enough. Now, work true. If something in this reached you, leave one word in the comments. Just one word. The word that names what you have been fighting for. You do not need to explain it. The word is enough. If you want to sit with this longer than 17 minutes allows, there is a companion guide waiting below. It will not tell you anything new. It will only give you room to ask yourself the questions this video didn't have time to finish asking. This is Mind Timeless. And in the next video, we go deeper.